and plumbing may end up joining in. So last night we had all 12 the sergeants show up. I was teaching in place of Pat, and the lesson card has been updated. If you cleared your cache, you probably see an updated lesson card that's out there. We removed the supplemental reads from the student site so that they don't have any access to the TDGs, and then the instructor school is going to be updated as well. So broke down the TDGs last night, and that's pretty much where I started. I was fortunate. I had a Marine that was in Bastion that brought up a lot of experiences and how he tied what his experiences with the IFCs were from his theater deployment. So that went really well. And then the other side of the coin was, of course, tying those that don't have operational or deployment experience, and how do these things, how do they translate into everyday Marine Corps life? So we were able to get through all of those. Each of the IFCs took about, collectively took about 90 minutes. The one that I really didn't touch too much on because they wanted to go down a political road was the theory of war. And when you bring up the theory of war with sergeants, they don't have a good grasp on that. So we ended up, cutting that one very short. They got the point that war serves policy, but they wanted to go down the road of, how their vote counts, and they started to derail the train. All the other issues for consideration, they were pretty much on target, staying on paper. There wasn't really a whole lot of, shaping or navigating that I had to do to get them to discuss what was the intent of each of those issues for consideration. We ended up jumping around just like every seminar. Each seminar has its own life, so we went from nature of war into friction back to the characteristics of the nature of war. So whatever they wanted to talk about is what we ended up talking about, and then I just looked for opportunities to get back on track, if you will. So after the 90 minutes of issues for consideration, good discussion, we took a break and brought them back in, and I gave them their first tactical decision game. The TDG, I had them printed off and stapled, and I stapled a MET-T analysis worksheet from Troop Leading Steps 1. With that, passed that out, asked everybody to go ahead and read that individually with pencils and highlighters, and just start assessing the situation. Give me a thumbs up when you're done. Did that, and then said, okay, now you're paired up into groups, and I grouped them in threes, made sure that they each had a good sample of the MAGTF within these groups. In other words, not all the O1s got into one group. And then went ahead and had them develop their estimate of the situation and a scheme of maneuver, and then be able to back brief it. I gave them 20 minutes as the initial going in time. I ended up needing more time, so I ended up about 25 minutes is when I started to hear the first group back brief. I let the other groups, ask questions to assess their thought process on how they developed their scheme of maneuver and what was their priorities, etc. And then I used that as the vehicle to, because they haven't had an education, if you will, on developing a MET-T analysis up to this point. And the goal was to get them to make a decision and to give direction to the individuals within the subordinate elements within the TDG. So that was good. That was accomplished. The bad part of that was, they weren't accomplishing their mission. And there was a lot of things that they were directing that needed to be stopped, talked about, assessed, and discussed to get them kind of on the right sheet of music. And that took a lot of time. and there wasn't enough time to do that. So in 4 different groups, I want to say I used probably 30 minutes just allowing them minimal discussions on their reasonings and then allowing their peers to talk to them. And we went into the second TDG, which was supposed to be an individual TDG, now that they have a better understanding. The same construct gave me a thumbs up. Hey, everybody's read. Now you got 2 minutes to make a decision. The value really wasn't there, the bang for the buck, so the learning experience. So I talked to Paul Van Water this morning. We're going to pull the second TDG out. The first TDG is this construct is going to remain the same. However, it's going to be revamped. It's going to be taken out of the 1950s and put into 2017. So I mean, they're talking about Prick 68s and sabers and other things that are in there. So I know him and Bryce are actually working on this, and they're using an embassy in Africa instead of this compound, and they're actually developing a true like Neo that's going to happen. We're going to make sure that when we develop this TDG, using that former one as the inspiration, but it won't be anywhere near what was developed and gleaned from the Gazette. We're going to come up with our own mission statement, task, purpose, make sure all the 5 W's are answered, and then we're also going to include just like in 6705, that TDG where there's an instructor guide that gives a robust meta-analysis, if you will, or talking points back to the learners to keep them on track. So going forward, the quiz seemed to work well. There was one that got a 10, one that got a 5, and then everybody else got all 3 correct. The reads, I believe Paul is going to try to find some additional 1-page short reads to complement a couple IFCs that are going to be added. And really the IFC that is going to be added is because we really never talked about the objective that the university has for us, and how can we connect what we talked about in warfighting to the functions of warfighting, and that's what we're looking for, is a small read and another IFC, so that we can make sure that we're at least proving to the university that we're staying online. So still going to make a decision. So we're still putting them in a scenario, recommending that we stay in groups for this one, and we're going to reduce it down to 1 and increase an IFC, but allow more time for discussion on how they develop their own OODA loop for the estimate of the situation. So what kind of questions do I got from you guys?
So Keith, you're taking out the TDG that didn't work, and you're going to revamp the one that has MSSG and stuff in there?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I like the Neo one because that's what the CLB is tasked to do. But again, we have the same challenges out here, I think, too, with operational experience and who's been on a MU and who hasn't been on a MU. They might know what a Neo is just by terminology, but don't understand how they tie into it if an MSSG or a CLB actually has to do it. So, yeah, that'll be okay. But you said it took a lot of time to work through that one?
It did. It took a longer time. And the IFC that I used, I didn't go in order, and I'll send out my lesson plan, but my lesson plan took its own life because I didn't even follow my own, because when I go in with a plan, I'm always thinking about what the learners want to talk about, and if they want to talk, it's their 3 hours. We need to make sure that we're talking about things associated, of course, with learning, but if they wanted to jump from IFC, A to IFC E immediately because there's a great connection there, then that's what we did. But what I held back was the last IFC was the one listed as number 2, and what does warfighting mean to you? Mean to you and your MOS, and that's what I used as kind of the transition into doing the TDG. So the one before that was the tactical role of the NCO. Is that you? Is that you, Sergeant? You, Sergeant, the cyber guy that works in a closet? Should you have a tactical mindset? So we went over that second to last, and then what it meant, what all of the previous discussion had meant to you in your MOS, and then we went into, okay, now you are that tactical NCO, and you're on the ground, and you're conducting a NEO, and you're all of a sudden in charge. Now what, Sergeant? So that's kind of the flow of how I wanted to attack the lesson. Any other questions?
So you stayed away from the definitions. I see MCDP1 in here. I'm trying to open multiple windows. I'm sorry. But you stayed away from the definitions that were in there?
No, we defined war up front, and then we went into the nature and theory. But when I broke down the nature, I broke it down into the characteristics of the nature, and then, the mental, the physical, the external. And then from each of those, we went into like friction disorder, uncertainty, and then came back and I added my own IFC at the end, like, okay, well, what's the relevance to you, the every madcap sergeant, of the nature of war? And, the very nature makes, certainty impossible. So, how do you now, 01, that's in theater, how does that make your life more difficult? Can you see the transition from what you experience today back at your unit? Do you know that with certainty how tomorrow's going to, go, every step of the way, et cetera? So I did go through those definitions, but I used connections to get them to see or think through how they apply every day. Yeah,
and the way because we obviously, and I'm trying to, how many weeks of warfighting are there in this one? It's 1, 2.
Well, this is the first week. So
right.
Last week was developing resiliency, and we had a TDG in there that we're going to pull out because, again, the bang for the buck wasn't there. The reason that we wanted to do more TDGs in the Sergeant Seminar was because of, EPME resident, they're concerned, with, how are we meeting what their end state is with the SUI, So, okay, well, let's get them to make more decisions in a tactical sense and give direction. So we added TDGs, and we really were kind of shoehorning that TDG into resiliency. And then this TDG, or TDGs, I think the value was minimized because we weren't able to continue a discussion on, how they came about their mindsets, what was their OODA loop. So we did achieve the end state of, they came up with an estimate of the situation, developed a scheme of maneuver, made decisions, and then conveyed their intent and their order to their subordinates. But we're going to reduce that down to 1, instead of. So.
Have you ever thought about giving it to them as homework so they come in with they already understand the situation and kind of an idea, and then we put them together in a quick group to kind of consolidate their idea? That's the way I do the TDGs that we have in the career course seminar. I give it to them beforehand to review everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had discussed that as a homework up front, and we went against that because we want them to feel, taste that friction, taste that uncertainty, be put on the spot to make decisions. And again, because that's what the resident course is trying to attempt, and we want to try to replicate what's going on there, that they're forced into scenarios where they are in a leadership position. They have to make it. It's time-compressed environment, and they get to taste some friction and uncertainty. So that's the way that we're executing it up here in Career Course as well. At 6705, TDG, we do that right up front. That's the first thing they get when they show up. We do a little welcome aboard, or not welcome aboard, a little current event discussion, 5 minutes or so, get everybody relaxed, ready to talk, and then poof, we throw it at them, and then make them make decisions, and we watch them turn into, cherries and ready to pop, because they get nervous and now they got to direct people. But it's just a construct that is, and again, we considered it as homework, and we went back and said, no, we need to put it in because it needs to be more of a making decisions under pressure is the reason why we're doing it that way.
Good to go. Yeah, just if you run out of time, that's a way to get around that. And with the definitions, I usually I'll show a video clip, and before I show the video clip, I assign each student one of the words, like the nature and theory of war, and then I have them define that after the video clip, and then by the book, and then they tell everybody where they saw it in the video clip, and it kind of drives home the points. It takes about 35, 40 minutes, but that might be too much, depending on how much time you used to talk about the definitions.
That's not a bad thought, Tim. I do the same thing. I do divide and conquer for the irregular warfare lesson. I give each of the irregular warfare activities to, pairs or threes or whatever, and have them brief the rest of the seminar group what it is, define it for everybody, summarize that, and then give the opportunity for individuals to ask questions. And of course, if they don't have questions, I got 3 or 4 canned questions that I'm ready to ask the groups that didn't brief that. And it's usually because of their MLS, etc. So that's good. I'm gonna write that down as a something to consider, and I'll talk it over with Paul, and we'll maybe add that into the spool as a method.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the lessons here, and you're going to go right into joint ops, which is going to create a lot of purple dust in their heads next week, I think. And I guess what's the end state that we want them to walk away with? A brief understanding, or we want the detailed understanding, because these are the terms we use when we speak in warfighting topics. So that's why I do it in the career course. But now if they're getting it in the sergeants, then maybe we don't have to do it as much in the career course. But until we get to that full learning continuum, I think we're going to have to.
Okay. Tank, Chris, you guys got any thoughts on that?
None here, Keith.
Not to change topics, have you guys seen the new infantry battalion structure that's out now?
No, I haven't personally.
Oh my God!
I haven't, Tim.
Yeah, so I think it's going to change a lot of some of the basics that we're trying to teach these guys when we're teaching non-infantry guys the structure of an infantry platoon. When a company is going to have a Master Sergeant 0369, a company gunny, and a Staff Sergeant 0369 all in the headquarters, and a comm company of like 90 Marines in a battalion, and General Neller's really changed things up.
Have you got that task org anywhere on paper or electronic?
Yeah, Pete Baumgarten, our EWS guy, the RCI, sent it out to everybody with some of the interesting tidbits. I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks. Yeah. So again, changes are coming for Warfighting Lesson 9. We're going to reduce down to 1 T. Yeah, I see, Chris, that you got a comment, but I'm ready for it if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having horrible computer problems here, so can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, man, I love this thing, and I swear it's just my recommendation. Is there any way we can get one of the IFCs to focus on maneuver warfare, or at least a difference of attrition and maneuver warfare? Because it's in the reading, and I still get staff sergeants in the career course who they don't understand the concept of maneuver warfare. They still think it's moving tanks from point A to point B, and obviously it's so much more than that.
Got it.
Or sergeant's not ready for that yet.
Well, in my opinion, no. I think they're more than ready. I think maneuver warfare needs to be bled into as many lessons as possible, to include leadership and admin and comm lessons. I just love maneuver warfare, and I think it can apply everywhere. But yeah, I got you, and I'll talk to Paul and Bryce on developing that into this lesson, because again, we are going to have a little bit of wiggle room when we drop one of the TDGs.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, I like that. I concur. We have the same issues.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody weighing in. If there's nothing, I'm going to post this, and you can revisit it whenever you want. And then, if any of you other RCIs that are listening to this later on have any comments, please shoot them my way. But appreciate your time, fellas, and it's going to get tightened up, and it'll be reloaded for your comments once it's out there, and I will let everybody know once it's been updated and republished.
Good to go. I just sent that email out to everybody, and I noticed it because the next lesson has a lot of infantry unit structure in it that's now maybe outdated.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, fellas.
Hey, Keith. Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Keith. What you got there?
Hey, I need to talk to you about Staff Sergeant Brandt.
Okay. Yep. I'll hang on.
How was her performance?
This last session, and I'm going to say goodbye to Tim and Chris. I appreciate you guys hanging out, but I'll stop recording at this time and just talk to Tank.